Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Grow Your Life podcast. My name is Jeremiah Krakowski, and on this podcast we talk about ways for you to grow in your business, to get more sales, leads, customers, and clients, and in your life, mindset, personal development, and the way that these all work together for you. Now, most of my listeners are business owners, and so that's where the angle of all of my content is. Sometimes there's strategies. Today I'm really going to dive more into personal development. And this is a big area that's been on my heart lately, helping encourage people to take a leap of faith, to step out and do what scares them, and to not allow the fear of what might happen to hold them back. And so no matter what goals you have, eventually you're going to come to a place in your life where you may come face to face with a fear that you have either been hiding, that's either hidden or it exists in your life. And we have to take these steps forward. It may even be a decision that we've made a decision that we won't do something. Like we made a decision, a conviction inside of us a year or two or three or four back. Hey, I'm not going to do that thing. And now we're coming face to face with the fact that, hey, I'm not going to actually have to do that thing that I need to do. And it's scary to take those leaps, especially as a business owner. I've noticed a business more than anything else shifts the way you see yourself. It shifts the way that you interact with people. It changes you as a person. You grow as a person. You have to. It's not possible to interact with hundreds, thousands of people in the public, because if you're going to have a business that's going to be successful, you are going to have to interact with thousands of human beings on a regular basis. There's no way to have a sustainable business without that. A business that is growing and thriving, you're going to interact, whether directly or indirectly. Could be if you're working with a client that's interacting with people, that many people. You're going to have to learn about people and grow yourself personally to be effective. And that's what this podcast episode is all about, is taking those steps of faith, taking those leaps of faith where maybe in the past you have held yourself back because of some reason, a worry and fear of how something's going to pan out for you. Maybe you're not sure if you should do that thing. I often talk with people about the money stuff, and they say, it absolutely terrifies them. The thought of if they stopped doing what they've done their whole life and did something else, that they couldn't be successful doing that. We're all faced with these moments, these leap of faith moments that we have to step off the edge. And myself, I've had a number of them in my life. The biggest one being going into business full-time for myself 3 years ago. I had always worked for other people. I had always worked with other people. And even my transitionary period during that, I still was working with other people, but running my own business. And now it's all in, full in. I make the rules. I set the time when I work, when I get up, what I do each day. And a big factor of that is self-discipline is so important. You have to be able to discipline yourself to get up. You're not going to have a boss harping on your back to make sure that you're doing the work. So you have to be the one that makes sure that you do all the work. And you also have to be the one that's going to motivate yourself to take steps of faith. You have to be the one that motivates yourself to take those actions that previously have scared you. Now, there's a really great book that I've read a number of times in the last couple of months that I've been recommending now to pretty much everybody that I work with. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Look it up, The Big Leap. And it's all about identifying your hidden fear. It's a very short book, highly worth it. And I'm going to summarize a few of the points in that book here today with you. But really, if you read the book, you're going to get the most value out of it. And ultimately, what the book breaks down is that there's four main barriers that people have keeping them from taking that big leap of faith, basically jumping off the ledge. And for you to grow in your life, grow in your business, get more sales, you're going to have to start to take some big leaps. you're going to have to start to take some massive shifts, some massive jumps. We come to a point in time where sitting around waiting for everything to shift in our lives and change and everything to come together and for us to finally have the schedule that works out, for us to have all the perfection, for us waiting for our environment to change before we take action. You come to a point in our life as a business owner where you can no longer be waiting for those things to happen. And you have to take a big leap and do the thing that you are really afraid of. And the 4 main areas, I broke this down with a couple of my coaching clients recently as well, and they had a tremendous impact. So that's why I wanted to bring this to you on the podcast. Is the first barrier is feeling fundamentally flawed as a person. The second one is relating to being disloyal or abandoning other people that have brought you thus far or people in your life. The third one is believing that the more success you have, the bigger burden that it's going to be. And so you stop yourself from success because you don't want to experience that burden. And then the fourth one is the crime of outshining. Basically, you're afraid of outshining other people, shining too brightly, so you shrink back your actions. And these are basically the 4 main barriers that keep people from taking those big leaps of faith. For me, mine was the crime of outshining. I was afraid of being successful for fear that that level of success would be a bad thing. It was something subconsciously in me, and a lot of times this comes through years and years and years of programming and how we grew up and things like that, and also believing that I was disloyal and abandoning other people. So I was like afraid to go after my dreams because I thought that it would mean that it would bring harm to other people. And so that was the big fear. The big leap for me was realizing, hey, me going after my dreams is actually the best thing that I can do. It's not being disloyal to anybody. It's not abandoning anybody. And there's nothing wrong with me literally shining as bright as possible and being as successful as possible. So I had to process through those 2 areas personally myself. And as I have processed through that, and I'm still processing through some of those, I'm still going through this process. It's a journey. It allows us to move, as the book describes, out of the zone of incompetence or the zone of excellence or the zone of competence into our zone of genius. And it breaks down these 4 different zones. We have the things that we're incompetent at, we're just not good at. We just suck at doing those things. We have the zone of what we are good at, but they're not super enjoyable. We have the zone of what we're really good at. We do enjoy them, but they're probably not the best thing for us to do for our whole life. And then the zone of genius is where everything is kind of clicking together. And for us to step into that, that's where that big leap of faith is. That's what that whole book is about, is taking those big leaps of faith. And so we have to identify what are our limiting beliefs. What are the beliefs that we have about ourselves, about what taking the actions to go after our goals would mean, what success would mean, what would happen around us. And oftentimes we get stuck in our head thinking up all these scenarios of how things can go wrong in our lives, how things won't work out, how other people might be hurt. And this is what keeps us from taking those jumps, those leaps of faith in our life. Can you relate to this? I would hope so. Almost anybody that is listening to my podcast, I believe that you could probably identify 1, maybe 2 areas where you have a goal, and this is where you are, and the gap between the goal and where you are, there's something scary, something that you have to do, something that maybe you have told yourself you can't do as a barrier, and that you can't be successful until you get that barrier out of the way. And that's ultimately what happens, is as long as we convince ourselves that we can't do something, as long as we argue for our limitations, as long as we argue that it's impossible for us to break past these barriers, we'll always stay on the other side of them. And that's what was happening with me, is I had these barriers I kept coming up against and was wondering, like, why is this happening? And again, that book helped. And this is what I've been talking about a lot on my social media. You know, it could be a barrier of just being seen and heard. If you grew up that, you know, that it's wrong to be seen and heard, or maybe you feel like you haven't earned the right to use your voice or to speak up. That's the fundamentally flawed one, that maybe you're not good enough yet to have an impact, that you're not successful enough yet to influence people in a positive way. Or maybe you've seen somebody in your life be successful and saw them suffering, and you didn't want to suffer the way they did. These are all little factors that create those barriers and those limits for us that we come up against. I've had some conversations with people on my social media. I've lost some people on my social media because of this. Because ultimately, the truth is that barrier, we have the power to choose to move it forward and to not allow it to stop us. And this is the biggest kind of limiting belief that people have is it possible to move that barrier? Is it possible to change those things? If we believe it's not, if we believe that we can't do something, we will manifest can't do and always exist in impossibility. And so for you to grow in your life, for you to grow in a business, for you to go forward, for you to reach your goals faster, for you to have the kind of impact that you know is possible, for you to create the kind of money in a business that you know is possible, you have to come face to face with these barriers and these beliefs and these limits that we have. The book, The Big Leap, calls it the upper limit problem. Again, I'm giving a raving endorsement of this book. Highly, highly, highly recommended. I'm going to leave an affiliate link on Amazon for you. I've listened to it so many times and I just cannot recommend it more. It's incredible. Such a good book. But we have to come face to face with what are those barriers? What's that upper limit issue? Where are we hitting that limit? And why are we so afraid to take a leap forward from that moment? When you finally make the decision to no longer be held back by that thing, all of the opportunity, all of the things that you've been waiting for open up for you, and you start to see clearly a path of how to move forward. And many times what will happen is we'll move the barrier, we'll raise the upper limit, okay, and then we'll hit it again. A lot of times this is also described as a comfort zone, the zone of learning. You'll hit that barrier and you'll have to essentially expand it some more. Once you keep hitting it, once you keep coming up against it a couple of times, you got to keep expanding it. One of the biggest ones for me in my life is giving up the need to control everything around me. Now, I know that it's not even been possible for me to do that, but I've tried for years to do that, to control things around me, to keep things under control and to prevent chaos and make sure that my environment is perfect around me. And I had to come to grips with the fact that, you know what, that need for my environment to be perfect for me to go forward was limiting me, was holding me back, was keeping me from taking the actions, from doing the things that I know would make me successful. And as soon as I moved that barrier, I started being able to create probably 5 to 10 times as much social media content in the amount of time that it was taking me before to create one piece of social media content. You might have noticed my social media content has increased tremendously over the last month or so, which has directly then correlated to sales in my business. It's like, yes, it works. It's actually working. And the biggest thing that shifted that changed that for me was realizing where my upper limit was, where I was limiting myself, and I'm still limiting myself. I was just listening to a billionaire the other day who said on a podcast, he's not even living up to his potential. When we can finally realize that we're not living up to our potential, and we never really will, ultimately. That's a belief that I do know has helped me be successful, is that I can always grow, that no matter where you're at, you can keep growing. This was taught to me years ago, that if you're growing, you're green. If you're ripe, if you've arrived, if you know everything, you're rotten. And I don't ever want to get rotten to the point that I know everything, to the point that I claim to know everything, that I've arrived. We don't ever want to get to that point where we say, I've arrived and I know everything. And that's where we can go into a place of arrogance and pride and ego, is when we feel like we know everything, like we know how everything is supposed to work out and how the world works, and we finally figured it all out. As soon as you figure it all out, my friends, there will be a new level that you'll have to figure out, and you'll learn and you'll discover. So the more we open ourselves up to, hey, we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing. There's never a place in our life where we'd have just figured it all out. It's not humanly possible to figure it all out, no matter where you get to. We can be a learner, be somebody who's open to learning, be somebody who's open to getting mentorship, be somebody who's open to discovering what we don't know right now and asking for help. And when you're in that position where you ask for help, Steve Jobs said this, that most people don't ever get what they want in success in their life and in their business because they just don't ask. They think that they're going to be an inconvenience to somebody for asking for help or advice, or that people are going to say no, or they're just worried about what people think about them. And ultimately, most of your success is on the other side of just asking. Some of you, even, that might be where your upper limit is in asking. Could be even asking for the sale, asking for people to buy your products and services, asking for a date in a relationship. These are all areas where we upper limit ourselves, where we keep ourselves stuck in our comfort zone. And we never want to go into the place of guilt and shame on this, to where we start guilting ourselves and feeling guilty for not doing enough. Because this is where I find that people then, they swing to the other direction. It's another toxic pattern that I had for a while. Is beating themselves up for not doing enough, for not being prolific enough, for not accomplishing enough. My friends, give yourselves grace to give it your best shot every single day. To show up, to be yourself, to not need everything to go perfect, to not need everybody to like you, to not need everything to go the way that you want, to not need to control everything. Just give it your best and forget the rest. Tony Horton, P90X, said that. Give it your best and forget the rest. And it's true. When we can learn to give it our best shot, we stop upper limiting ourselves. We stop letting these fears limit us. We stop letting these worries limit us, while simultaneously not beating ourselves up over how things are working out, while detaching. This is going to be probably the hardest part of this podcast episode for most people. Detaching our happiness from the outcome. Not needing things to go the way that you want for you to be happy. Finding joy and happiness inside yourself. Finding it in community, in gratitude, in your relationship with God, your faith. And then from the overflow of that, taking action in these areas. When we do that, when we have our foundation set right, our foundation of our motivation isn't found in just what we can accomplish, what we can do, what we can get done. And it comes from within, it comes from inside of us. It comes from not needing everything to be perfect. It comes from trusting the process and knowing that we're not where we want to be today, but we're a whole heck of a lot further along than we were before. And encouraging ourselves in that. Encouraging yourself. Maybe you lost 50 pounds, but you haven't lost 100. Maybe you've lost 100, but you haven't lost 200. Maybe you've made $50,000, but you haven't made $100,000. Maybe you've made $1,000, but haven't made $5,000. I got clients that I work with that are making $300,000 a month. And I got clients that are making $5,000 a month. And I got clients that are struggling to make $10 a month. It's all in the process. Giving yourself grace to be right where you are in the process is where we can activate ourselves to then take action on the next step. When you get this, when you put all these pieces together, when you see what you need to do, what you've been scared of doing, while simultaneously not beating yourself up or feeling guilt or shame for not doing those things, oh man, that is like nuclear energy. It's like atomic. It's like insane what happens when you kind of hold those two things together, that you know that you can go further. You have a vision for going further, but you're not beating yourself up for not being there yet. And you're fully accepting yourself for where you are right now in the process. And then saying, all right, I'm going to get to work. I'm going to be disciplined today. I'm going to take ownership over my choices. I'm going to take ownership over my decisions. I'm going to take ownership over the fact that maybe I chose to prioritize building a family over accomplishing so much. Never beat yourself up over that, my friends. Don't use your family and say that it's like a reason that you can't accomplish things. That's such a blessing. That's amazing. And that's important. Never devalue that. We don't ever want to use our situations as a crutch or a reason or an excuse why we can't do something. Instead, say, hey, I've chosen to take care of my kids. I've chosen to prioritize my wife and my health over clients, over what clients are wanting, over making money in this season. Most people who follow me don't fully know that I have that perspective. I want you to take care of your family. I want you to prioritize your relationships. I want you to prioritize the good things that are going on in your life, the good things that you're doing because you chose them, and be happy in that and grateful. I'm grateful that I have my health. I'm grateful that I have a good marriage. I'm grateful that I have wonderful friends and a thriving, growing business. Even if there's room for improvement in those areas. Gratitude is where we unlock our ability to accomplish the impossible. By being grateful for the opportunities that are coming your way. By being grateful for how things are coming together for you. And when we come to the edge of these hard decisions that we need to make, these leaps of faith that we need to take, we can fully own them because we've chosen them. I know a lot of you, again, still, all of us do. Like I said, we have these areas, these beliefs that we're limiting ourselves on. We're holding ourselves back. We're not taking action on the things that we need to do. We're making excuses. We're saying, well, I just can't do that because of this. Stop blaming other things for your choices and start taking ownership over why you've chosen to do something the way that you have. Even if those choices that you made were a mistake, even if you're not happy with those choices, even if you did something wrong, even if you did something, ended up in a bad relationship, own that. And then own that you're working through it and you're in the process. When you come from that place, you become unstoppable to accomplish whatever you want in your life. It's a process. It takes time. But at the end of the day, we want to figure out how can we accelerate that process? How can we speed some things up? How can we shore some things up? What are some areas? What are some holes that I can fill up? What are some gaps? What are some beliefs that I have about what is possible for me, success? What beliefs do I have about myself? What inner beliefs do I have about what's possible for me or people like me? What beliefs do I have about what it means to be loyal to my friends and family? What it means to be loyal to a job? What it means to be loyal to clients? What beliefs do I have about success? Do I believe that it's going to be painful to be successful? Do I think that success is a hard road? It's a big one that I find a lot of people have, is that success is a hard road, a painful road. That belief limits people. It does. Because as long as you believe that it's painful, you'll avoid it. So don't ever avoid doing something based on what you're telling yourself about what that action means. Belief that you shouldn't shine brightly, that you shouldn't be more successful than somebody else, or that you can't be. We all have these beliefs, these choices, these decisions that we've made. We might have had patterns that came in from how we grew up, patterns that came in from it be a church or bad teaching or bad mentorship. Might have had a bad mentor that didn't teach you the right way. I've had a lot of those. That doesn't mean you can't learn a better way today. And as soon as you learn a better way, you can make a plan. You can start to write your goals down. Some of you haven't dreamed in a long time because of all this stuff that I've been talking about today. And as soon as you unlock it, as soon as you open it up, a little spark of a dream pops in your head. I even think some of you right now, you're listening to this podcast episode, and right now you've gotten to this point and a little flicker of a dream that maybe you laid aside for years is popping in your head right now. You laid down those dreams because you thought it wasn't possible for you, or that it was super far off in your life. I want you to write those things down. And I want you to hold on to those dreams. And I want you to realize you're in the process. Can I guarantee that you're going to accomplish that dream? No. But isn't it better to have a vision, to hold on to something, to have something in the forefront of your mind that you're looking forward to? And then start taking the steps, one step at a time, to get there, to move the needle forward. That's what this is about, my friends. When you start to take those leaps of faith, those steps of faith, when you even take a step to look over the ledge at what's possible, a whole new world opens up for you. And that's really my goal with this podcast. If you ever listened to the very first episode I actually had on this podcast, it was all about dreaming. It was all about limitless possibilities. I believe that humans can accomplish anything, that we can do anything we want to, but not everything's best for us to do. And we can't do everything we want to. Sometimes we might want to do two very different things, because we're just not our zone of genius. For me, I studied programming, computer programming, and I was talking to my wife today, I'm not very good at Tetris or building things. I couldn't really build you a house, but I could help you build a business. I could help you raise the funds to hire somebody to build the house. See what I'm saying? Don't beat yourself up just because you can't do everything. Some things you were never meant to do. They were meant for other people to do. And for you to bring that team together, for you to bring a community together, for you to bring people together to do something that you can't do on your own. When we do this, when we open ourselves up to the possibilities of what's possible for us, when we start dreaming again, when we stop letting our fear and arguing for our limitations and arguing for why we're stuck keep us held back A world of possibilities opens up for us, and the impossible becomes just a little bit more probable. And that's what I love to help people with. I love to help them both see bigger for the future, and then let's bring it back to the practical. What do we need to do today? What do we need to do this week? What do we need to do this month to move the needle forward? What do we need to do right now that we're not doing that will move you that much closer to your goal? Even moving in the direction of a goal is a good thing, even if you don't accomplish it, because if you're headed in that direction, you'll grow, and you may discover a new path that you want to take along the way. I notice some people, they don't go after a goal because they can't guarantee that they'll reach it. Don't ever keep yourself from heading in the direction of a vision because of a lack of a guarantee. Head towards those directions. Give yourself grace to be in the process, to trust the process, to be in the process, to let God process you, as Steve Harvey says. You might just be surprised at what you discover when you take those leaps of faith, when you take those steps forward. So check out the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I think it's really going to help you. And if you need some help, if you want some help, I'd love to help you, to mentor you in business, in online business, and how to get more sales and how to get more customers on the internet. I've helped businesses for the last 17 years making 7 and 8 figures. And that's what I'd love to do for you as well. Even if you're just starting out, there's a step to get from where you are to where you want to be and what the next step is. And that's what I'd love to help identify for you, what those exact next steps are. And so you can schedule a free 15-minute call with me on my website, jeremiahkrakowski.com, where I walk you through step by step. We'll work together on the phone for 15 minutes. We'll go through this, where you're at, and what's a strategy for your next steps to move forward. If you'd like to learn how to create offers that people buy on the internet, I just launched a new course called Irresistible Offers That Sell. It's all about creating offers, landing pages, copy, courses, challenges, different things like that. If you want to know how to run social media ads, I have my social media ads course. If you want to know how to build a website, I have my website building course. Those are all on my website, jeremiahkrakowski.com. I think they'll really help you. So, I believe in you. I know that it's possible for you to go after your goals because I've seen it happen for thousands of other people. Are you ready to grow your life? Let's get started. We'll talk soon, everybody. Have a good one.